There's a moment every man has experienced, but few ever stop to analyze. You walk into a room and without saying a word, a woman notices you. Not because you told the funniest joke, not because you walked in loudly announcing yourself, but because something about the way you carried yourself spoke louder than words ever could. Most men ignore this, rushing to fill the silence with chatter, trying to prove themselves with words. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Attraction often begins long before the first sentence leaves your lips. Scientists estimate that over 80% of human communication is non-verbal. 80%. Think about what that means. Before you open your mouth, before she even hears your voice, she's already reading you. The way you stand, the pace of your movements, the steadiness of your breathing, the direction of your eyes, these are all signals, tiny but powerful, that tell her volumes about who you are. A woman doesn't consciously sit there and analyze each detail like a scientist, but her nervous system has been trained over thousands of years of evolution to detect them instantly. In a single glance, she picks up on your calmness, your confidence, your self-control, or your lack of it. This is why some men talk and talk and talk, trying to win her over, while another man can stand in silence and she feels her pulse quicken. Because his silence isn't empty, it's full of signals, full of presence, full of energy that she can feel even if she can't explain it. Let me tell you something crucial. Women are not attracted to men who are desperate to prove themselves with words. They're drawn to men who communicate without speaking. The way you lean back instead of leaning in too quickly. The way your eyes remain steady instead of darting nervously. The way your shoulders relax instead of tensing up. She feels that. She feels the difference between the man who is grounded in himself and the man who is performing. And the grounded man always wins. Now, why is this so powerful? Because silence reveals truth. Words can be faked, compliments can be rehearsed, lines can be stolen from movies, but your nonverbal presence, that cannot be faked for long. Your body betrays your inner state. If you're nervous, it shows. If you're insecure, it leaks out in every micro-expression. If you're calm, centered, and confident, it radiates without effort, and women trust what they feel more than what they hear. A smooth talker can fool her ears for a while, but her body reacts to what it perceives beneath the surface. Here's something most men never realize. When a woman is attracted, her body often responds before her brain creates a story about why. She doesn't say, "I'm attracted to him because his shoulders are back at a 45-degree angle." She just feels it. Her nervous system reads your cues faster than conscious thought. Her breath changes, her pulse rises, and only later does she try to rationalize it with words. But the attraction started in silence. Imagine two men. One enters a cafe, rushing, scanning the room nervously, shoulders hunched, phone in hand, eyes darting. The other walks in slowly, takes his time, shoulders back, gaze steady, movements deliberate. Neither man has spoken, neither has said a single word. But ask any woman in that room, which one pulls her attention first? Which one makes her wonder, who is he? The answer is obvious, because attraction doesn't start with what you say. It starts with who you are when you say nothing. And here's where the psychology gets fascinating. Women are wired to read safety and strength without words. For thousands of years, their survival depended on it. Long before Tinder profiles and clever text, women had to decide, often instantly, whether a man was safe, strong, reliable. They couldn't wait for his speech. They had to feel it in his presence. That programming is still alive today. So when she feels your calm, when she senses your grounded energy, when she sees you standing in silence with complete comfort, her body reacts, not because she's analyzing consciously, but because her instincts are screaming, "This man can be trusted. This man is different." Men often think attraction comes from being loud, funny, or the center of attention, but the opposite is often true. The man who can command silence without discomfort is magnetic. Silence is not weakness when it comes from power, it's strength, because it says, "I don't need to prove myself, I am enough as I am." That energy makes her lean in, curious, almost compelled to break the silence just to be part of your world. So here's the paradox. The less you try to impress, the more impressive you become. The less you rush to speak, the more weight your words carry when you finally do. Women are not falling for the loudest man in the room. They're falling for the one who radiates quiet strength, who seems completely at home in himself, who doesn't need the world's validation to feel like a man. That man drives her crazy not because of what he says, but because of what he doesn't need to say. And the best part, you don't need to invent this presence. You don't need fake confidence or rehearsed body language. You simply need to become comfortable in silence, to trust that your presence alone is enough, to stop chasing her approval and start embodying your own calm. Because when you do, attraction happens before the first word leaves your lips. You have to understand something that almost no one talks about. Women are masters of reading micro signals. Long before a man notices his own nervous tics, she has already catalogued them. The slight tightening of your jaw, the restless shifting of your weight, the way your eyes glance around as if searching for escape, all of it is processed instantly. You may believe you're hiding it. You may believe that your words can mask your insecurity. But her subconscious has already made the judgment, long before you finish your sentence. This is not cynicism, it's biology. For generations, women survived by being able to detect danger, by reading men faster than men could speak. That instinct remains sharp, even in the modern world. Think about what that means in a dating context. You approach her and deliver your clever line, but she isn't truly hearing the words. She's feeling your energy. She notices whether your tone matches your body language. She senses whether your smile reaches your eyes, or whether it's plastered on as camouflage. She's evaluating whether your presence calms her or unsettles her. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men are so trapped in their heads, so desperate to say the right thing, that they radiate unease. Their bodies broadcast what their words are trying to hide. And women trust the broadcast, not the script. That is why silence is so powerful. Silence removes the possibility of contradiction. When you're calm and quiet, you're not overcompensating, not betraying your nerves with rushed explanations. Instead, you're showing comfort in the most primal way possible. You are saying without speaking, I am enough here, I belong here, I am not threatened by you or anyone else in this room. That unspoken confidence makes her body respond even if her mind hasn't caught up yet. Consider the impact of eye contact. Most men either avoid it or overdo it. The first signals weakness, the second signals desperation. But steady, relaxed eye contact, without force, without apology, creates a magnetic tension. It tells her you are present, focused, and unafraid. You're not scanning the environment for someone better. You're not trying to dominate her with aggression. You are simply there, unshaken. And in that silence, in that gaze, something happens that no words can manufacture. She feels chosen, even for a moment. She feels your attention fully, and that alone is intoxicating. Posture tells the same story. A man hunched forward, clutching his drink, shifting in his seat, announces insecurity without speaking. A man standing tall, shoulders open, movements deliberate, announces confidence without uttering a word. Women feel these differences at a subconscious level. One posture makes them anxious, the other makes them relax, and relaxation is attraction. Because when she feels calm around you, her guard lowers. When her guard lowers, she feels safe to imagine more. Even something as simple as your pace communicates volumes. Men who move too quickly, who fidget, who rush their gestures, create tension. They appear uncertain, like prey rather than predator. Men who move slowly, who take their time, who seem unrushed, create the opposite effect. Their calmness becomes contagious. She mirrors your energy without realizing it. Her heartbeat slows to match yours, her breathing eases, and suddenly, she feels better in your presence without knowing why. That mysterious sense of comfort becomes desire, because she associates you with calm, with strength, with groundedness. The fascinating part is that all of this happens below conscious thought. She doesn't sit there and analyze your spine angle or your breathing pattern. She just knows, in her body, whether you make her feel drawn in or repelled. This is why a man can tell endless jokes and receive polite smiles, while another man can lean against a wall in silence and leave her unable to stop glancing his way. One is trying to generate attraction with noise, the other is allowing attraction to happen naturally through presence. Now here's where men often misunderstand. They think silence means doing nothing, but that's wrong. Silence is not the absence of energy, it is energy under control. It's not slouching in the corner and hoping she notices you. It's being so comfortable in your own skin that every subtle movement radiates composure. It's leaning back not because you're lazy, but because you're unshaken. It's breathing slowly, not because you're bored, but because you're fully in control. This kind of silence isn't empty, it's loaded, and that's why it's magnetic. Imagine being at a party. Music is playing, conversations swirl, laughter bounces off the walls. Most men raise their voices, trying to cut through the noise, trying to compete for attention. But there's one man standing at the edge of the room, calm, relaxed, quietly observing. He isn't scrambling to be seen, but people notice him anyway. A woman glances at him once, then again, wondering what makes him so composed while everyone else is trying so hard. That curiosity is the spark. Because curiosity is the seed of attraction. She wants to know what makes him different, and in that desire to know, she's already pulled in. This is the paradox. When you no longer need to be noticed, you become impossible to ignore. When you no longer rush to fill silence, your silence becomes powerful. And women, perhaps more than anyone, are attuned to this. They live in a world of noise, of men trying to impress, of words thrown carelessly like confetti. When they encounter a man who doesn't play that game, who communicates everything through calm, confident presence, it feels revolutionary, it feels rare, and rarity is irresistible. But here's the warning: this can't be faked for long. You can rehearse lines, you can practice clever comebacks, you can buy expensive clothes to cover insecurity, but you cannot fake presence indefinitely, because silence will expose you. If you are calm on the outside but anxious on the inside, the cracks will show. Your eyes will betray you, your posture will falter, your breathing will quicken, and she will sense it instantly. That's why true power without words begins inside. It begins with mastering your own nervous system, your own emotions, your own sense of worth. Only then does your silence carry weight. Only then does your presence become magnetic instead of awkward. And when you master that, everything changes. You don't chase conversations, you don't force attention, you don't crumble when silence falls between you. You embrace it, you let her feel it, because you know silence, when backed by strength, speaks louder than any words. Most men fear silence. They rush to cover it with words, as if the absence of sound will expose them. But silence is not emptiness. It is a canvas, and the man who learns how to paint on that canvas without speaking becomes unforgettable. Women don't crave endless chatter. They crave energy, presence, the feeling that a man can hold space without collapsing. That is what makes silence attractive. It reveals whether you are grounded or hollow. Think about the difference between silence from weakness and silence from power. Weak silence is awkward. It's the man staring at the floor, shrinking into himself, praying for someone else to fill the gap. Powerful silence is different. It's the man leaning back comfortably, eyes steady, shoulders relaxed, breathing evenly, making no effort to chase approval. In that silence, she feels something she can't explain. Her imagination activates. She begins to wonder what he's thinking, who he is, why he isn't scrambling for attention like the others. That wondering is the beginning of attraction, because desire thrives in mystery. Women are drawn to men who make them feel, not men who over-explain themselves, and silence makes her feel more than words ever could. She feels the tension of your steady gaze. She feels the safety in your calm posture. She feels the curiosity of your mystery. This is not passive. This is active energy. Energy that wraps around her like a magnetic field, pulling her in without you moving an inch. She tells herself it's irrational, but her body doesn't care. Her body has already reacted. Here's what most men miss. Attraction isn't built in her mind first. It's built in her nervous system. Her body feels the calmness of yours and mirrors it. Her heartbeat slows to match your steady pace. Her breathing aligns with yours without her realizing, and in that synchronization, intimacy is born. She feels safe, she feels curious, she feels alive in your presence, and all of this happens before a single word has been spoken. That is why women say, "I don't know what it is about him, but there's something." That something is the unspoken language you've mastered. Now picture a crowded bar. One man is telling jokes loudly, his words spilling over, his laughter exaggerated, trying to draw attention. The woman he's talking to smiles politely, but her eyes wander. A few feet away, another man is standing quietly, not forcing himself into the spotlight, but holding his space with calm confidence. His eyes meet hers for just a second longer than usual. He doesn't rush to look away. He doesn't force a smile. He just holds the gaze, steady, relaxed. Suddenly she feels a spark. She turns back to the man telling jokes, but she's distracted now. She feels a presence stronger than words. That's the power of unspoken attraction. This is why mystery matters. When you don't reveal everything immediately, when you don't try to explain yourself, when you let silence hang for just a moment longer than most men can tolerate, you create space for her imagination to fill in the blanks, and her imagination is far more powerful than any line you could deliver. She begins projecting qualities onto you, wondering if you are more confident, more grounded, more powerful than the men around her. In that wondering, she invests in you emotionally before you've even said your name. Silence doesn't just create tension, it creates contrast. In a world where most men perform like clowns desperate for attention, the man who doesn't need to perform stands out. His calmness cuts through the noise, his presence feels rare, and rarity is irresistible. She may not notice every man who speaks loudly, but she will remember the one who was silent yet undeniable. Now, let's go even deeper. Women are not only reading your silence, they're also testing it. When she throws a playful jab, when she teases you, when she waits for your reaction, she isn't just listening to your words, she's watching your composure. Do you flinch? Do you get defensive? Do you collapse into nervous laughter? Or do you stay calm, maybe smile faintly, unbothered? Your silence in those moments tells her more about your strength than any witty comeback. Because calmness under pressure is rare, and rare is irresistible. This is the heart of masculine energy, controlled intensity. The calm man isn't empty, he's powerful. His silence isn't the absence of confidence, it's the presence of it. She feels the possibility of fire beneath the stillness. She senses the strength being contained, not because it's weak, but because it's disciplined. That discipline makes her feel both safe and excited. Safe because she knows you won't lose control. Excited because she knows you could if you chose to. That paradox is electric, and it lives entirely in your nonverbal presence. Think about the archetypes that dominate women's fantasies: the mysterious stranger, the quiet warrior, the powerful leader who doesn't speak unless necessary. These men are not attractive because of endless words. They are attractive because of what they withhold. Their silence becomes a story in itself. Every pause, every moment of calm, every unhurried gesture makes women lean in, craving more. The less you give away, the more she wants. That is the psychology of desire. And here's the real kicker. This isn't just about seduction. This is about life. The man who can command attention without speaking is respected everywhere. In the boardroom, his silence signals authority. In conflict, his silence signals control. In relationships, his silence signals stability. Women don't just desire this, they depend on it. Because the world is full of men who talk too much, who scramble, who panic. But the man who is calm in silence stands out as a rock in a storm. And every woman wants to lean on that rock, even if she doesn't admit it out loud. So when you wonder why some men attract effortlessly while others chase endlessly, remember this: it isn't just about what you say, it's about what you radiate before you say anything. The calm man, the grounded man, the man who is comfortable in silence will always win. Because silence, when backed by true presence, is louder than words could ever be. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that words alone are not enough. Maybe it's after a date where he talked too much and she never called back. Maybe it's in a relationship where he explained himself endlessly, only to watch her eyes drift away. Or maybe it's in a crowded room where he said all the right things but somehow went unnoticed, while another man, quieter, calmer, left with all the attention. That's when the truth hits. Women don't fall for speeches, they fall for presence. They don't crave endless explanations, they crave the unshakable feeling of being in the orbit of a man who doesn't need to prove himself. And here's the part that stings. Most men never learn this. They keep talking, keep explaining, keep performing, not realizing that every word they use to try to convince her is evidence of insecurity. The man who cannot sit in silence is the man who cannot sit with himself. And if he cannot sit with himself, why would she want to sit with him? Attraction begins not with performance, but with being. Being still, being grounded, being enough without needing applause. When you master this, your silence becomes a language. It says, I am confident, I am stable, I am not desperate for your validation. It says, I can protect without threatening, I can desire without needing, I can want without begging. This language is older than speech itself, and it is the language women respond to at the deepest level, because it bypasses her brain and speaks directly to her instincts. Think about the men who have left a lasting impression on history, on culture, on women's fantasies. They are not remembered for constant chatter, they are remembered for presence. The general who leads with quiet authority, the king whose gaze silences a room, the mysterious stranger in every romance novel who says little but makes her heart race with every glance. These archetypes endure because they reflect something timeless. Silence from a place of power is irresistible. Now imagine applying this in your own life. You walk into a room, not rushing, not fidgeting, not scanning for approval. You walk slowly, deliberately, as if you belong. You don't need to fill every second with noise. You don't need to win the room with jokes or stories. You simply stand, breathe, observe. Your presence does the talking. The right people are drawn to you. The right women notice you. And the ones who don't, they were never meant for you in the first place. But here's the deeper transformation. When you learn to be attractive without words, you stop chasing. You stop worrying about what to say, how to say it, whether it's clever enough or smooth enough. You stop competing in the noisy game of men trying to outtalk each other. Instead, you play a different game, one where silence is your strength, one where presence is your magnet, one where less is always more. And that game is one most men will never master, which is why the few who do seem almost superhuman. Women often describe these men in ways that sound mystical. There's just something about him, they'll say. They can't pinpoint it, but they feel it. And what they feel is the calm, grounded energy of a man who doesn't need validation. His silence doesn't make them uncomfortable, it makes them lean in. It makes them want to be closer, to understand him, to feel more of what he radiates. That's the secret. Attraction without words is not just possible, it's more powerful than anything you could say. Of course, there's a danger here. Some men hear this truth and try to fake it. They practice silence like a tactic, force themselves to stare longer, to speak less, to copy the behaviors they think will make them magnetic. But women are too perceptive for that. If your silence comes from insecurity, if your calmness is forced, if your stillness is hiding chaos, she will know. She may not articulate it, but she'll feel it, and she'll pull away. Authenticity cannot be faked. True presence comes only from doing the inner work, from becoming comfortable in your own skin, from knowing your worth without needing her to confirm it. So this is the challenge. Learn to be silent not because you're afraid, but because you're grounded. Learn to be calm not because you're suppressing chaos, but because you've mastered it. Learn to be present not because you're trying to impress, but because you truly are at peace with who you are. Do that, and every room you enter changes. Every woman you meet feels it. Every interaction becomes easier, deeper, more magnetic. Because now you're speaking a language without words. A language older than speech, a language women cannot resist. And here's the final paradox. In a world drowning in noise, silence is louder than ever. In a culture where everyone is shouting for attention, the man who does not shout becomes the one worth noticing. In relationships filled with endless talking, endless arguing, endless explanations, the man who can sit in calm silence becomes unforgettable. She will remember you not for what you said, but for how she felt when you said nothing. She will remember the way your presence calmed her storm, the way your stillness drew her in, the way your silence spoke the loudest of all. So stop fearing silence, stop running from it. Embrace it, master it. Because when you do, you won't just attract women, you'll attract respect, admiration, and power. You'll stop chasing and start drawing everything you want toward you. You'll stop trying to convince and start embodying. And in that embodiment, in that calm, unshakable silence, you will discover the truth. Women are not drawn to words, they are drawn to presence. And presence is built not in noise, but in silence,